start streaming button. Give it a little, give it a second. Do my little tweet thing. How are you guys doing tonight? Are you guys having a good night?
Ben, I'm having a good night today.
Oh, what time is it there, James?
11:30 in the morning.
11:30 in the morning. It is 7:30 at night here.
It's 10:30 at night.
No.
10:30. That's why you're eating cereal.
That's why you're eating cereal. Why is there cereal on the walls, though? That's what I want to know.
Oh, they're flowers.
Oh. It looked like, the honeycomb cereal.
You mean like this?
Do you mean why they're honeycombs?
Yeah. That's exactly what I mean.
That's flowers.
Okay. It looks better now. Earlier, the picture quality was not as great.
That's because I wasn't trying before. Now I am.
Gotcha.
And we lost Chris.
And, of course we did. That sounds about right. Seems like a good way to start us off.
And I'm back.
Good.
I can hear him, but I can't see him.
Yeah.
There it is.
Perfect. Alright. Is everyone ready to get this started?
Yeah.
Alright.
Brain had to be like, am I ready?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can do this too. I have faith in you. Okay? I have faith. I know. But, James, I love you. You've been my friend for a long time. And I feel like I'm kind of stuck with you at this point. So, that's really true love. Alright?
Yeah, what prompted that?
I don't know.
I'm scared.
Let's go ahead and get started. It's another ridiculous night as my round table joins me, Ben, the ridiculous Riddick, and rants concerning the nerd culture of yesterday and today. Joining me at the round table this week, I have, over in Capelli's corner, James Capelli himself.
That's me in my corner of power.
Yeah, your corner moved recently.
Yeah, I figured, went from one corner to the other on the inside.
Yeah, you're in like North Korea, right? You're staying at Kim Jong Un's house.
Yeah, we're I can't say too long because we're gonna go shoot some boobs later.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense.
Ever since Rodman came, I can't talk about it.
I understand. We'll try to keep this show as censored as possible for your sake, okay? And Brant, Ramblin' with Range, joining us as well. How's it going, bro?
Fuck. I mean, wait. That was explicit, wasn't it? Yes, I'm doing well in New York.
Good. Live from New York City, Brant Range. And joining us for his Nerdy Night Radio debut, Chris.
Yep.
I'm going to butcher your last name, Bunani.
See if you can get it. Not bad.
Huh?
Not bad at all.
That's good. I'm glad. Italian's a little difficult for me, but it pretty much means something about the year, right? Like New Year or Good Year.
Good year.
Oh yeah. So you're Chris Tyre.
Basically, I wish it was this higher right now.
Okay.
It's Chris close to being the
Brant, you love
mafia.
it. Stop shaking that.
I love making terrible jokes, and people who watch this show have got to be used to it at this point. Obviously, this week I had a show topic in mind to talk about, but there was some really devastating news that came to light yesterday. Nintendo president Satoru Iwata passed away. And he was 55 years old and has been the president of Nintendo since 2002, shortly after the release of the GameCube. He was the one who kind of ushered in the Wii and pushed for so much support for the 3DS and all of that. So he's a great man in the industry, and the world is worse off without him, I believe, and I'd like to have just a brief moment of silence for Satoru Iwata. Okay. I think that was a good brief moment. Everyone feel like they got their brief moment of silence out of the way. Now, all of the silence that we were going to have in the middle of the show has been taken out just then.
Saying is I should start shouting.
The entire rest of the show shouting at the top of your lungs. Yeah, James, I think you might be sick if that's the top of your lungs. You might want to get that checked out.
He's got black lungs.
Well, I guess he is in North Korea, so it makes sense.
Anything.
Drugs are so affordable.
But I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to sit down and just talk about Nintendo as a whole, and our experiences with Nintendo, and just where we think Nintendo's going, and how much love or hate we may have for Nintendo. First off, does anyone here have hate for Nintendo? Good.
I hate how much I love them.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
There was for a little while, but
Yes.
not anymore.
Good.
They let's be honest. They screwed things up the last couple of years.
Yeah, but I mean, as
After went bad, it did, and then they redeemed themselves with all the handhelds. That's where they focused, and that was fine. But I think that they lost a lot of their after the Super Nintendo. They kind of just dropped the ball for years, and then slowly started redeeming.
Dropped the ball.
Oh, no. But I mean, honestly, when you compare the 64 with some of the other systems, I think the 64 was great for what it did. It was wonderful. I love it. I have mine still. But more recently is what I meant. Really, the Wii came out to revolutionize everything, and then I think something happened after that, where it kind of fell behind. I pushed harder for way behind.
you are
It sucks.
you are breaking up a little bit, Chris, just to give you the heads up. But essentially, what I'm hearing is you're pretty much saying from GameCube on, with the consoles, they seem to kind of fumble. So, and I would kind of agree. I loved my I loved the GameCube, and I loved what the Wii did, and I do love that Nintendo, when it comes to their consoles, they are very much you know what? Let's just try something different.
Always.
And I think it's very important that they keep trying these different things, because let's be honest, Sony and Microsoft still try to copy some of the stuff. I mean, with the huge success of the Wii and the motion controllers, PlayStation came out with the Move, and Xbox came out with, yeah, exactly, the highly successful PS Move, as well as the Microsoft coming out with the highly successful Kinect. Yeah, I mean, they are still absolutely paving the way for innovation in video games, still, in my opinion. And I mean, some people might not like the tablet that comes with the Wii U, but I think it's a very neat second screen option for a console.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they revolutionize virtual reality in gaming. Because that seems to be like the next big upcoming wave, or fad, so to speak.
They're finally going to pull out all of those Virtual Boys from way back when, and they're going to be like, here you go, virtual reality.
You need two of them, though.
Yes, you would. Absolutely. But, yeah, I mean, I agree, but at the same time, Nintendo is still such a great household name. I mean, they sell hundreds of thousands of consoles every single week still. Or every single month, I should say, not week.
I think Mario is the most recognized fiction, most recognized face across the world, or something like
The Mario Brothers music, the World 1-1 music is super universal as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I heard you say World War I music. I'm like, I don't know what that has to do with Nintendo, Brant, but I got you. World 1-1. 1-1. So I want to hear your guys' first experiences with Nintendo. Chris, you're a guest on the show, and there's some. Oh, I think I'm getting some feedback from somebody again. Echo. Chris, this is your first time on the show.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was your first experience with Nintendo?
First experience with Nintendo was actually the original Nintendo when it came out.
Did we lose him again?
Out.
I can't hear him.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you guys see me all right?
Well, I can't see my TV, so I don't know if I see you all right.
I can see.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, which is great.
Okay.
So
let me try it one more time. So, I actually remember begging my mom to go down and actually buy it when it first came out. The original Nintendo with the little robot that picked up discs and moved them. Didn't understand why I had to have one. And I remember going down, picking it up, and getting home and playing some very strange robot game, but then putting in Super Mario Brothers, and I was hooked. I put a controller in my hand, and basically have had a controller of some form within arm's reach. I remember.
you're breaking up again. This is really sad, because it sounds really good. While that gets sorted out, James, let me hear about your first experiences with Nintendo.
My first experiences with Nintendo, I was 3, I think, and my brother and I got a Super Nintendo for Christmas. Like, used to be Nintendo, and I kind of have memories of my brother and mom playing Legend of Zelda on the original, but the Super Nintendo was the first thing I had an experience with. I remember when I was, we got Super Mario World and A Link to the Past, my favorite Zelda game, and favorite Mario game. But I remember one day, I think it was probably about 4, I woke everybody in the house up at 6 or 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
because I was finally about to beat Legend of Zelda for the first time. Everybody's just my parents were like, "Oh, he's a cute little kid, your son, so we'll humor him, sure, why not?" My brother was like, "Why am I awake?" But I remember that was good times, and to this day, I still love that game so much. The nostalgia factor is powerful, but it also holds up pretty well, even to this day.
I agree. I mean, even on Twitch today, there have been so many streams going on of the retro Nintendo games, and it's just watching them, they still look like they're a blast to play. And I mean, we're seeing a lot of games even go, a lot of indie games go back to the roots of video games in that 8-bit style and 16-bit style.
Yes, right.
So it's their games, they look great. They even look like they play all right. And I mean, it's yeah. And that's what I was watching. I was watching A Link Between Worlds earlier today, and it looked like a blast. I'm bummed that that I wasn't really a Nintendo kid. I was on the Sega growing up until the N64. But real quick, chat, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what your first experiences with Nintendo are, while Chris finishes his story about his first experiences with Nintendo. I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, getting it home, playing it all night, playing Super Mario until I was forced to go to bed because I had school the next day.
Goddamn school.
Sneaking out of my bedroom in the middle of the night to turn it back on and keep playing it for the night and getting caught by my mom, and no, I'm taking the controllers away.
Did you ever have to do that thing? Because I had to do this thing. My the N64 was in the living room, and in order to play it, what I would have to do is I'd have to be quick. I'd have to turn the TV on and spam the mute button. Because if the TV turned on and there was any sound, family was immediately awake and sent me away. So it had to be done very quickly in order for me to be able to play games. So I don't know if you had the same kind of thing that you had to do, Chris, but that was my experience.
Oh man, I remember when I was little, I didn't understand how technology worked. I thought the crackling sound from the static was the static electricity from the TV. So I would rub my back of my hands on it, so my head would kind of disperse through the static electricity. It's like, shut up. I don't know if it worked, but I got to play a lot of video games tonight.
Oh, that's good. Your parents probably did see you, but oh, look at this cute little idiot.
Gaming sessions didn't happen until in high school. Really, I did have a television in my room when I was, I guess when I was 12 or 13. It was a television, I think, from the mid '70s, and through a batch of cables, you could continue to, you could hook up an SNES to it. But I didn't really start playing games.
Is Branch crackling for anyone else here?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
Is it?
Yeah.
Should I check something?
You should probably check something, because it's... While you check that out, we do have someone in the chat. He said his first experience was the Wii Fit, which introduced him to gaming, which must mean that he's got to be one fit motherfucker, right? That, or using the balance board, he just I don't know, threw it through the window? I never used that. Did any of you guys ever use the Wii Fit?
I tried it once.
Because they had skiing on it, right?
I have really bad balance when I go on one foot.
But James, you're so short. Your center of gravity should be fairly low.
The beard brings a lot of it back up.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Okay.
Any better?
Nope.
No.
Weird, because the entire beginning of the show, when we or pre-show, and you were talking, never heard this at all. So,
Yeah, this is very bizarre.
yeah. And Cruising says his health went down from there. Another viewer first experience, Everything Shiny in the chat. He says the NES and Super Mario Brothers. He was able to purchase the new console on his own after saving up allowance and lawn mowing pay. It was $86, and I got it from the old toy store chain called Child World.
That's so much money to have back then.
And he said, after I got it, my grade school friends would come over every Saturday night to play NES. So Shiny, was it all Super Mario Brothers that your friends would play, or were there other games that were involved? Because I am curious. Brent, how do you sound now? Do you...
I don't know. You have to tell me.
Oh, jeez.
It's a little work.
Yeah, actually, I agree. Brant, I'm going to tell you about my first experience with Nintendo. It was shortly after, I think, I don't know, my 85th move as a child. My parents... Yeah, my 85th birthday. As a child. It's been a very weird life for me. But I'd say I look pretty good for about 97.
You got that weird Benjamin Button thing there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my name is Ben, so it makes sense. No, so my parents bought a Nintendo 64 shortly after we lost my Genesis. And, yeah, because we moved so much, in one of the moves, somewhere my Sega Genesis got lost. So they got me a N64 as to try to calm me down because I loved my Sega Genesis so much. And they got me a few games with it. Like, I think the main games that I remember playing are all Star Wars games.
Nice.
Like, Rogue Squadron was one of them. There was that Bounty Hunter game that I absolutely loved. It was like a first-person game. And, of course, I played Goldeneye and Perfect Dark. And, yeah. I loved those games, and at that house in particular, there was the street next to mine was a cul-de-sac, and there were a few houses with my friends in them, and they all had N64s also, and everyone had different games. So depending on which game we wanted to play would determine which house we went to and hung out. So it was a lot of fun to just kind of, say, oh, what are we going to do? Are we going to play Mario Kart, or are we going to play Smash Brothers? Are we going to play GoldenEye? Whose house are we going to play this? And we always had plenty of controllers, which was fantastic.
The question is, how many good controllers?
So that was the best part, is everyone had at least one good controller. So whenever we went, it was BYOC. Everyone brought their own controllers and pretty much played with that, and it was so much fun. And one of my fondest memories in video gaming, period. And I don't know, did you guys ever play Rogue Squadron? Star Wars? Like, that was one of my favorite games. I eventually ended up playing it on PC after the N64. But, I mean, essentially you would go on different missions where you had to destroy the Empire, and you would get different ships. So it's like, on one mission you'd be flying an A-Wing, on another an X-Wing, and, kind of depending on what you did, there was different ships that you used. And I remember there were like cheat codes that you could put in so you could fly a Millennium Falcon. There were cheat codes that you could put in to fly a TIE fighter, and all these awesome cheat codes that you could put in. Which, how many games have cheat codes anymore? Like, I feel like they're absent.
They do. They're all like Easter egg, like the Konami code. Like, oh, remember we did this throwback reference. It's like, yeah, cool, but now I have to pay. Now you have to pay for this stuff.
Yeah.
Cheat codes were the best.
They were, and I mean it was fun when your friends came over and saw you playing games. They were like, "Whoa, how'd you do that?" And it's like,
you know what game still uses cheat codes?
What game?
Rock Band and Guitar Hero. Those games still use cheat codes.
Oh, that's true. Well, I mean, those are also fairly old games, considering there hasn't.
No, even the newest ones that came out a year or two ago, they still use them. Things like unlock all tracks, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
I remember.
Chris remembers.
Yeah, good memory.
RPG.
What about?
I remember
My
when
sound game was Dragon Warrior.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And
was that like the kind of like a top-down world kind of game?
Yeah, top down. You defeated the slimes, the little
Yes.
blue slimes and red slimes and green slimes, and
Metal slimes.
It was hilarious. But I remember, forcing again. I have my allowance. This is what I'm getting. It's supposed to be great. And then that's the first time I remember staying up all night. It was playing that game.
Nice.
Until the sun came up, and that was good. And yeah, my mom was a little bit mad at that one, but it was fun.
Yeah.
In the living room with the volume way down, sitting real close to the TV to not wake anyone up, and just playing all night. That was good.
Oh, God, those were the days, man. Couple more things from the chat. Shiny says, we often played Nintendo exclusive Pro Wrestling on Saturday nights. We also tried all the wrestling moves we learned from the game in my front yard. Thankfully, everyone survived without any major injuries. And then, of course, Cruising 13, he says cheat codes became microtransactions, which is a goddamn shame.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. It's like, it'd be really cool if there was like a cheat code in Destiny where if you figured it out, you unlocked a special shader or emblem or something. And
oh, I thought you mean a real cheat code. They do. It's called bad internet connection.
oh, that's right.
Ew.
That's the cheat code.
I still haven't tried that cheat code.
You have a quick upload, but slow download.
Yeah.
You can automatically win in all Crucible matches.
Goddamn crying shame is what it is. But moving on from that, Brent,
Yes.
your first experiences with Nintendo.
Do I sound okay?
No, but you're gonna go for it anyways.
I think I was probably 2 or 3 years old, and we were at a family friend's house, and I was causing a ruckus, because that's what I used to do. And they, to sedate me, they put me in front of an NES with Super Mario Bros. 3, and I kind of like, it was a light bulb moment where I freaked out, and I'm like, I can control this thing on the screen. And then I just begged my parents to, like, I need to get some of this in my life, in my veins.
You're saying it was crack.
Yeah.
And so I got an SNES with it was late enough in the life cycle where it was the Super Mario All-Stars with Super Mario World. So I got 5 of arguably the greatest games of all time, and I remember playing these games and just having an absolute blast. Especially because they had the lost levels in it, and all of the games had save states, not like frame save states, but if you got to like World 3 and then you had to go eat dinner or go to bed or do whatever else, when you picked up the game the next day or whenever else the next time you got to play, you could start from the first level of whatever world you'd gotten to, which is so good.
Yep. Oh, see, the save state for the original Nintendo was just leave it on and pray your mom doesn't see the red light.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not
Put a sock in front of it so that she doesn't know it's on all day when you're at school. That was the save state.
Yep. That's what I did.
and then hope to God that you didn't get home and see that your mom had turned it off.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Stay out of the room. It'll be okay.
The amount of time, see, the other thing was if you did that with a Game Boy game, you'd have to pray that the battery held out,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh dear, sweet God. It's a race against time. I can't even remember the amount of times where I was like, listen.
I remember doing that for I think it was Metroid. The first Metroid, I was the first time I really got into it. The save states were just horrible, and you had codes and stuff, but you'd still have to unlock so much stuff. And I remember saving it. I was like, I'm at the, whatever boss it was, one of the brains. I cannot do this. And I remember my brother sitting there watching me play it. And I'm like, all right, now you're home all day. Whatever you do not let, because he's not in school yet. Do not let, mom turn this off. I will be home as soon as I get home from school. We're gonna finish the level. And I get home, and it's off. It's like, what happened? And but to this day, he actually remembered watching that screen and making sure it can go and walk around. He actually has the mother brain, from Metroid, tattooed on his arm from it.
Huh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he has the 8-bit tattoo of that on one, and then Mega Man on the other. So.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Mega Man. No save states, no save game files.
Nope.
They had the 4x4 grid passcode
Yep.
that you put in.
I-
You was
Yeah, I
like,
remember
all
writing
right,
those
oh,
down
what is that?
frantically.
Write that down, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep, the Metroid code was Justine Bailey. You typed it in, you got the Samus without the suit on, and all the unlocks. Still remember
yeah.
that code.
Man, good times. So, my next question for you guys. Obviously, we've just talked about our beginnings with Nintendo. I want to hear about your favorite experiences with Nintendo. Like, for example, for me, I had a lot of fun with the N64, but what Nintendo really was for me, it was all about the Game Boy. My family, we traveled a lot. We went on long car rides, plane rides. It was a lot of traveling, and having that Game Boy was just such an awesome thing for me. And I remember when I first got it, my parents got me both Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. And I immediately opened up Pokemon Blue, started playing it, and I swear, I don't think there is a game I have put more hours into than Pokemon.
Did you catch them all?
I did on Pokemon Blue. I got all 150, and then I did it again on Yellow. But ever since Yellow, I have not caught all Pokemon. There's 720. 720 Pokemon right now. That's way too many Pokemon.
It got a little bit silly.
I still love playing those games, though. Like, I mean, I still played X and Y, and had a blast playing X and Y. And just the mobile gaming in general is what Nintendo means to me. I mean, those are my fondest experiences with Nintendo, is having that Game Boy. And then there was also the pinball games on the Game Boy, which I thought were awesome. And then I don't know if you guys... Tetris, that was good too. But I don't know if you guys remember, after the original Game Boys came out, they came out with the Game Boy Color. And then you could go to the stores and you could buy cartridges with, like, Rugrats. Or, these kids' TV shows on the cartridge and watch a TV show on your Game Boy Color. It looked shitty as hell, destroyed your batteries, but God, that was one of the coolest things ever. But the best memory I have is I had the regular Game Boy. It was not the gray one, the gray big one, but when they made them a little smaller. It was the Pocket. Thank you. And I had the see-through case, so you could see everything that made the Game Boy. Exactly. And we were, my parents and I, or my parents were going on a trip with me to the Florida Keys to go lobstering. And I remember sitting in the car thinking, oh man, they do a lot of driving at night and I can't see at night, or I have to time playing with the traffic lights and all of that, and I was kind of bummed out about it. And then the day of the trip, my parents have a gift for me. They give it to me, and it's this thing that you strap onto the top of your Game Boy Pocket, and not only is it a light, but it's a motherfucking magnifying glass. And it's just like sitting there, it's like, yes, I could play at night. And was like...
Definitely terrible for your eyes.
Absolutely terrible for your eyes, but... I mean, come on, I was, what, 5, 6? Something like that? I didn't give a shit. I wanted to play Pokemon. And you know what I did? I played Pokemon. I did. So you guys in the chat included, I want to know what your best memories of Nintendo are. So James, why don't you tell me your best memories of Nintendo?
Man, my best memories of Nintendo involve a lot of mobile and Game Boy stuff as well. When I was in middle school, my friends and I played a ton of Mega Man Battle Network.
Ooh, I remember that one.
We would see like how we could sneak playing it while in class and stuff like that. But my buddy, his mom was one of the two lunch ladies. So after school, he typically would just be in the cafeteria waiting for her so they can go home. But we just started meeting there after school every day, and would just play against each other and stuff. Oh man! Of course, it was like whoever's farther along in the plot is gonna win.
Yeah.
But I remember there was one time I was playing, and you know how there's like the ability, you know how the game works. It's like the grid. Everyone has like 9 squares which they can play.
Yeah.
And there's one ability you can use that like steals like 3 of those grids from the other person for a short time. Well, I got like 3 of those in a row. and I trapped my friend all the way in the back row. But when they're in the back row and you do it again, it takes whatever spots they're not standing in. So I just like went and like stood like right next to him, and just like sat there and just pissed him off because he couldn't do anything. It wouldn't, like, as long as you were standing there, it wouldn't take the rows back. And he was just like, he started actually punching me. There was no way I could like kill him, but
absolutely.
So it's definitely that. A lot of just the Game Boy Pockets and Advanced Pokemon Red. I remember when I got that. And, like, I think we had it for like a day before my brother was like, "Take me to buy one right now too." So my mom took him and bought him a Game Boy. Since I had
Oh, so you guys were able to.
No, I actually don't remember if she bought him a Game Boy or we just shared. I think we probably shared. We never got a link cable.
See, that link cable, that was like, that was the shit. Like,
You could play Pokemon against one another.
yeah. So there was this. I don't know if you guys remember the bookstore Books A Million.
Yeah.
Back before they called it BAM and before it, went bankrupt. They would have by my house a Pokemon League night where you could go, you could trade and battle in Pokemon cards and on the Game Boys. And they had like just a box full of link cables that they would let people use, or you could bring your own link cable. And I just remembered having so much fun doing that almost every weekend because of those damn link cables.
Did you guys ever play the Pokemon trading card game, Game Boy game?
Yes.
That game was amazing.
Yeah.
That game was so.
I wasn't allowed to.
You were? Why not,
I
Chris?
wasn't allowed. I played Magic back then, so anyone who played Pokemon was a little kid.
Okay.
Pokemon card game. You guys are all young. So you have, your memories are like a decade. It's got to be a decade behind mine. So no, it was just I'm remembering you doing that, and I'm like, oh, my brother did that.
Well, so tell me, what are your fondest memories of Nintendo, Chris?
Final Fantasy. I remember Final Fantasy, the equivalent of 2 and 3, when those first came out, which is, the American release of them.
Right. Which was like, years and years after the Japanese release?
Yeah, exactly. But I remember sitting with my friends, and we would just play them nonstop. Actually, the same group of friends wound up playing it all the way through, 7 on the PlayStation years later. But I remember timing it out with 99999 on time played, and figuring out the little like hacks on it, where if you put a book on your controller, it would keep cycling through, so you could like build XP by. We figured out that if you floated your characters, you could fight these Medusas. They only cast Earthquake, and you wouldn't take damage. And if you only killed one at a time with like a weak attack, this guy would keep summoning them. And we had it set up where you could basically put the book on the controller, leave, come back in like 2 hours, and you would kill like, some up-team number of them.
Jesus.
And got a whole bunch of experience that way. Oh yeah. So we would do that, go out, play, come back, and it was just one of those things where I remember just fondly figuring it out, going through and having that experience of kind of bonding over, honestly, cheating a game, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I remember doing that at Nintendo.
That's funny.
And then I remember
sorry, before I forget, but I remember playing like Street Fighter with my brother and our friends. And if you did any move the same time 3 times in a row, you were being cheap. You were being a dick. Or if you were playing the computer, it's like, dude, just spam your Hadoukens. You can be cheap against the computer. It's okay.
I was just gonna say Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah.
I remember playing that. I actually got to play that in school. That came out when I was in middle school, and we actually had like a computer class where we were actually learning about computers, and they had a Super Nintendo. So I actually got like an A because I was really good at Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And playing that as a class during middle school was just awesome.
Yeah.
And being really, really cheap with Ryu and Guile. that was just fun.
Real quick before Brant tells us his fondest memories of Nintendo, I want to take a quick second to remind everyone that this year we are doing Extra Life again, and Extra Life is going to be happening November 7th to 8th. We're going to have a big live event in the Bay Area, so make sure to stay tuned to us on Twitter, social media in general, for more info on that. But we've got some really, really cool prizes that we're going to be raffling away for donations. Some of them including a guest spot on this show. Some of them, we've got some really cool Spider-Man San Francisco street art that we're giving away. And my favorite thing that we're giving away is this PS1 right here. We got, I went to Kinda Funny Live a couple months ago, and I got a bunch of signatures from the guys who run Kinda Funny, including Greg Miller right here, Tim Geddes, Nick Scarpino, Colin Moriarty. I even have some streamer signatures on here. I've got Alfredo Diaz, and I've got a couple of guys from IGN signature on here, including Andrew Goldfarb and Marty Sleva, who drew the beautiful News Ghost on here as well.
Now, either I haven't seen a PS1 in a very long time, or I have never seen this model before.
This is the original PS1.
Yeah, so it's just been a long time. Oh my god.
I mean, they did come out with other PS1s. There was like that PS1 like Slim that was a lot smaller than this.
That's that console for so long.
Yeah. So the way you get the way you get entered for the raffle is every $5 you donate towards Extra Life and Children's Miracle Network hospitals through our Extra Life team, www.nkrn.org/Extra Life, or you can type in the command extra into Twitch, into the chat, and you get it as well. Donate for every $5 you get one raffle ticket, and during the event I will use a random number generator and somebody will win this PS1, and I will ship it to them shortly after the event. So that's we have a goal of $5,000, and Children's Miracle Network is a fantastic organization. They help kids. Children get treated regardless of their family's ability to pay, and we're talking about being treated for everything from like premature births, we're talking about cancer, we're talking about cystic fibrosis, but we're also talking about things like having gotten into a car accident or stuff like that. These hospitals, they treat thousands of kids every year, and they absolutely can use as much help as they can get, keeping the kids as comfortable and happy as they can. So it's a great cause. So make sure to check that out. Again, it's nkrn.org/Extra Life, and it takes you to the Extra Life page. So that is that. Brant, your fondest memories of Nintendo.
I'll go with the portable one first. It's also a Pokemon memory, but it has to do with Pokemon Gold.
Gold and Silver were awesome.
Right, so I caught them all, and I was like, I'm on the top of my game. Fuck you. And, it was a lot of swagger on the in grade school, and then Gold and Silver came out, and I got Gold.
I got Silver.
Yeah, well, that says a little bit about both of us.
Yeah. All right.
How we think about each other, ourselves. And so I beat the Johto region, and I was all about, I'm like, alright, right on. I was going to drop the Game Boy Color, as it were. And then
boom!
It's like, hey, there's a train. And I'm like, where does this silly train take me?
Kanto?
To the Kanto region.
What?
Where the entire first game exists.
Yeah, buddy.
And actually, as an aside, based on the project reason we're doing this topic, It was actually Iwata's programming that made that possible. Game Freak had made Gold, but they were being really inefficient with how they programmed the game. So Iwata was like, oh, by the way, I reprogrammed the game, and now you can fit the entire first game on there, too.
Oh, wow.
Which is bonkers.
So
that talk about...
Hashtag thank you, Iwata.
Yeah. I don't know. There are, like, plot twists in games, and it's going to mess with your head. But that was, like, not a plot twist. That was just a weird value add that blew my mind.
Well, and, I mean, what made that even better was the fact that you go through, you play against the Elite Four, and then you play against the Kanto region champion, who was your goddamn character in Red and Blue. Which, it was amazing. The only bummer about it is, if I remember correctly, it didn't scale. It was literally the first game. So all of the gym levels were, pretty low in the beginning. So it's like you beat the Johto region, and you
were like this tyrant.
But they changed the sprites up a bit. They made them better.
They did.
They updated that so you would see, whatever Pokemon that you'd experienced in the first game, and then they looked better, and then there was more detail in the gym leaders.
Yeah, and Gold and Silver was that was the first entry into the Game Boy Color, right?
Yes.
Because Red and Blue were still regular Game Boy games, OG Game Boy. And was Pokemon Yellow Color, or was that also OG Game Boy?
No, it was also OG Game Boy. I owned that game as well.
Yeah, I loved Yellow. Where you had your little Pikachu following you around?
Because you could also get all three starters.
Yeah, that was the best part.
So there was certainly that. The N64 era with multiplayer was, as many of you had said, it was crazy to be able to play with 4 players. And if you had, I had enough friends who were video game fanatics around me at the time. Star Fox 64 was great. I specifically remember my last memory of the last century and the last millennium was all the adults were getting really drunk around me. They're parents of my friends, and my friends and I were just playing. We had made up a Smash Brothers tournament, and so my last memories of the 1990s were me and my friends just playing Smash Brothers. And actually, we were kind of upset that they wanted to change the input on the TV to watch the ball drop, so we're kind of in the middle of something.
Oh.
I don't really care about the Millennium business. Really.
Who cares about the Millennium?
Yeah, I have to play as Kirby because he's a broken character in that game.
Yep.
Goldeneye was also great. So here's the term that doesn't really exist anymore, and I want to see if it resonates with any of you. You were thinking about Goldeneye and Perfect Dark, so that era.
I know. Can I guess what your word's going to be?
Yes.
Is it screen looking?
Screen peeking.
Screen peeking?
Yes.
Yes, that's what we called it. We called it screen peeking.
Oh yeah.
You got punched in the arm with your car.
Yep.
Yeah, you couldn't do that in Goldeneye.
Oh yeah, Goldeneye. It was the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was heated.
Well,
Yeah.
you would figure out like these incredibly elaborate ways to prevent screen peeking by like taping a sheet to half of the thing, or the cardboard box thing, where it's like or with the sheet, it's like one kid was under the sheet and saw the bottom half of the screen, the other kid was out of the sheet and could see the top part of the screen, and life was rough then. There was no online gaming.
But it was also like it was such an arbitrary thing to get super mad about.
Yeah.
But I took that super seriously. You couldn't just screen peek.
No, that's.
There was like a camaraderie or sportsmanship in playing GoldenEye super well, especially if you, like us, played with the Golden Gun, proximity mines in the facility.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of like the way that we operated our business back in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. So that was super great. I think the best part about the Game Boy Advance, as somebody who was only a kid during the SNES era, was that basically you had a portable version of the SNES. Although, the resolution wasn't perfect, etc. But there were so many SNES ports. So you had the first 6 Final Fantasy games. You had Chrono Trigger. You had to wait until the DS. But you had another entry in the Mana series. You had a remake of the first Metroid game with basically Super Metroid graphics. And there was, it was almost like this, the Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, which is actually super rare. At that point, it's an incredible game, and I know people who play that game, their only access to it was that port. And so I felt like, oh wow, now I can play, these games that I super, super love from my, even further back in my childhood. Yeah, I can play them on my Game Boy Advance, which is super novel.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll do one more, and it was the launch of the DS. I remember I had an older friend who had an eBay account, and I just gave him a whole mess of stuff, and I was like, sell it. Because this was 2004, I was 13 at the time. And so I got the money from him. He was a family friend, so he didn't cheat me. I gave him a little cut, and then he gave me the rest of the money, and I walked in. I pre-ordered the DS, and I took it home with the remake of Super Mario 64, and I put the card in, and I was about to boot it up, and I'm like, there's no way that I can play Super Mario 64 wherever I am. Because that game was the business when I was like 5, 6, 7. That was trying to get all 120 stars or something. Like the challenge. No achievement points, just, prestige. You could bring a cart to somebody's house and be like, check it out.
Look what I did.
Yeah. Exactly. And I booted it up, and there were extra stars, and I really didn't care that I could play as the other characters. Luigi's broken in that game. You can do so many things with that crazy MacBook of his. But that was that was mind blowing. I brought it in the first day of class. The next day, actually, at school, and I was like, not listening to the teachers at all and stuff like that. I was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, playing Super Mario 64 at school.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great. And it had the. We weren't sure if it was going to sell, so they had the Game Boy Advance slot in it.
Oh yeah, that's right. You could still play the.
Right, and was there a better revision of a console, period, than the DS?
Yeah. You know what they did with Pokemon in that is oh, I didn't realize that Chris left. That would be why the boxes are all screwed up.
Yep.
I need to get Chris back in here so the boxes aren't screwed up.
Talk to me about Pokemon.
Yeah, so Pokemon, the first ones on the DS, I think it was what was it? Diamond and Pearl. You could put in your Game Boy Advance Pokemons and
do a transfer.
Exactly. Wait, how do I even do this? I don't know either, because I can't see the freaking screen. So, I mean, I thought that was another neat little piece of technology, and that was something from when Iwata was around.
Yeah.
Oh, there he comes. Here he comes.
Oh, God. I love my wireless connection.
Oh, I love my wired connection.
Well, I'm usually wired, but...
I love LAN.
Yeah, I'm wired for all games. The Skype is just on, the only one I have a webcam on is my laptop, so it's all
Yeah.
wireless. Sorry about that.
No worries. We're about to be wrapping up. Real quick, I just want to throw in a couple of the things the chat said. Shiny mentioned when we were talking about Metroid codes that they were nearly illegible. I lost a lot of game saves by writing the wrong code. Was it an O or a 0? Oops. And, Cruising makes a good point. He said the sad thing is that people who are just starting gaming are going to start with like iPad games with all those microtransactions and not with Nintendo like we did. But at the same time, he mentions that his fondest memories are when he got his first 3DS and played Super Mario 3D Land. So I think he might even be in a different age group than us, which is very interesting. But awesome that still that kids are still playing Nintendo. Well, maybe not as much anymore.
Nintendo's not going anywhere. Kids will still grow up. You know, can't get rid of Mario Party and Mario Kart games.
Oh,
It's
Mario
pretty much
Party. That first one.
Oh God, Mario Party.
Mario Party's better, more fights than like any other game.
Or
I didn't care about that. It hurt my hand.
It's what ruined most of the N64 controllers.
yeah, and do you remember what was it, WarioWare?
WarioWare.
I-
WarioWare or Wario Land?
Maybe it was called Wario Land. I'm thinking WarioWare. That's with all the mini games in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, WarioWare. Where?
Where you ripped off the some
Yeah.
joystick
Yep.
got rubbed off,
Uh-huh.
circling it real fast.
Oh yeah. Where you rub off your Nintendo. That's
Okay.
Something like
As I
All
was
right, I
saying,
think that's a good place to stop.
kids will still grow up with Nintendo. It's just going to be a much different Nintendo than we had.
yeah.
Actually, listening to you guys reminisce, it's interesting because it definitely the generational gaps as it goes, but everyone has a similar type of memory of being with friends and just having pure fun without worrying about graphics, without worrying about the latest and greatest, just purely having fun. And I think that's what Nintendo really is.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week, and thank you, chat, for being so involved in the show this week. I really appreciate it. It was a blast to have you in. And remember, you can always watch the show. We did change days that we're going to be recording the show. We're going to start recording what used to be called Ridiculous Rants. We are now calling it Nerdy Night Radio on Mondays at 30 p.m. Pacific time. And that way we'll have some other shows spread out throughout the week that you'll be able to enjoy as well. Don't forget the command extra in the chat. We're trying to raise that $5,000 for Extra Life. Help us out.
You can also go to ranchstash.com.
Ranchstash.com brings you to the latest and greatest Nerdy Night news. And remember, you can win this awesome PlayStation with some cool signatures on it. And then, other than that, we will see you next week. You can always follow me on Twitter. I am at BeRidiculous. Follow James, Ser_Capelli, Capelli. And Brant is BRange. Chris, I don't know your Twitter handle, if you even have one.
Not yet. I mean, I have one, but no one needs to follow.
Okay, don't follow Chris. He'll punch you. And of course, you can follow the podcast at nerdy_nights. Guys, that's all the ranting we have for you tonight. It has... What?
Whatever.
Where?
This is our last nerdy rant, you said.
Well, no, I mean, we still kind of rant. It's just not ridiculous anymore.
We're closing the page on that chapter.
A
A new era is at hand.
new era is at hand, and there is great stuff to come in this new era, James. Don't be afraid of change. Embrace change. Okay? If you are listening on iTunes, please rate us, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. But remember, you can catch the show early on Twitch, www.nkrn.org/Twitch, and you can watch it live. Or you can go to our YouTube channel, nkrn.org/YouTube, and watch it the next day, whereas it doesn't go live on iTunes until the following week. So, guys, it has been our last ridiculous night before we start.
Don't say it like that.
Before we start before I come up with some new sign off. And just remember, you can't spell ridiculous without Riddick.